Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today we are talking about the Switch 2 release dates and why it might actually be sooner than a lot of us think. I think most people are expecting June, maybe even later, but it sounds like it could actually end up releasing in May, which is what I've been saying, but maybe even earlier in May than I originally thought. Let's talk about it. Okay, so to briefly catch you all up, we originally had a couple of rumors, specifically from Nate the Hate, but also Video Games Chronicle corroborating it, that the Switch 2 could be launching in May or June of this year, which honestly, you don't really need an insider to tell you it's going to release in that time frame, at least in my opinion, because if we follow what they did with the Switch, which it looks like they're kind of mimicking the announcement to release timing of that console, just a little bit different, right? The Switch was announced in October of 2016, the Switch 2 was announced in January. It looks like they're kind of mimicking it, where they announced the console, pretty bare bones trailer, teased a game. In the case of the Switch 1, they teased several, but in this case, we got Mario Kart. And then almost exactly 2.5 months later, we're getting that big blowout event. And just based on how Nintendo has been releasing things recently, where they announced them and released them very close to when they are announced, think about EMEO last year, even think about, Super Mario 3D All-Stars years ago, or the Shadow Drops in Metroid Prime and Pikmin 1 and 2. They are announcing stuff and releasing them in a much quicker cadence than they ever have. So based on that alone, I don't think we'll be waiting that long after April 2nd when we get that Switch 2 Direct. I don't think we'll be waiting that long for the release anyway, but it is kind of nice to have some rumors to back it up a little bit. But we also have all of these Switch 2 tour dates. I'm lucky enough to be going to the New York one. I'll be there in early April playing Switch 2. I'll give you my hands-on thoughts on all the games and all that. But if we actually look at the dates here, there is a very conspicuous 2-week gap of these tour dates where in North America and in Europe, they're really going through all of April and the first half of May. And then there's a 2-week gap, and then they get back to some Asia countries at the end of May and in early June. To me, and I made a video back when this was announced, to me, that 2-week gap is extremely suspicious. I immediately was like, okay, I think that means the Switch 2 will be releasing in late May, be it May 29th or May 22nd. However, there's been some recent developments that are leading a lot of people to think it actually might be even earlier than that on May 15th, or maybe even a little bit earlier. So really, there's two major pieces of information here. And once again, this is all very conspiracy brain speculation of when this console will release. However, I actually raised this with a friend of the channel, also another YouTuber, Andres Restart. I think he talked about it in a video around that time. But Doom the Dark Ages is a game that I think most people are in agreement is going to come to Switch 2. We don't know that with certainty, but considering Doom 2016 came to Switch and Doom Eternal also somehow managed to come to Switch, it stands to reason that Doom the Dark Ages will be there. There's something weird with this game in that it is releasing on a Thursday. Specifically, it is releasing on May 15th, which is a Thursday, which is when Nintendo now releases their games. For a very long time there, Nintendo was doing Friday releases, but starting with Endless Ocean Luminous in 2024, and that fiscal year, they've been doing stuff on Thursdays. Amiibo, Alarmo, things released on Thursdays now for Nintendo. There's no reason to think that will be changing next fiscal year, so starting in April. So a Thursday release for the console makes a lot of sense. And yeah, conspicuously, Doom the Dark Ages is releasing on a Thursday. And I wanted to really make sure that that was a weird thing. And I went back through almost 2 years of Xbox and Bethesda games, and they almost never release stuff on Thursdays. So it's a little weird that Doom the Dark Ages is releasing on a Thursday when that is a game that's probably going to come to Switch 2. So basically the speculation is, could Doom the Dark Ages be a Switch 2 launch title? And I think it's definitely worth discussing and speculating on because, like I said, Doom and Doom Eternal came to Switch 1. Bethesda was there very early with the Switch, and with how Xbox, the parent company of Bethesda now, with how they've just been porting their stuff to everything, I think it stands to reason Dark Ages will come over. Now, just to really try and lend some credence to this theory, I actually listed out a bunch of dates here, and there is one Thursday release from Xbox in the past 2 years that I can count. Maybe I missed something smaller, maybe like a random Age of Empires thing, I'm not sure. But going through and talking about like their new releases, right? The stuff that's coming out soon or just released. South of Midnight is releasing on April 8th. That's a Tuesday. Avowed released on February 18th. That was also a Tuesday. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This one's weird. That released on a Monday. However, it had early access a few days before that, so I'm not sure if they were trying to line up the early access a little bit there. Flight Sim 2024, November 19th. That was another Tuesday. Hellblade 2, May 21st, 2024. Another Tuesday. Starfield all the way back in 2023. That one was a Wednesday release, but once again, it did have an early access of, I believe, 5 days. So that came out, I think, on Friday, early access that year, I want to say. And then Redfall was also a Tuesday. That's another Bethesda game. Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, I went back and checked those. Those both came out on Fridays. This is before Xbox owned Bethesda. Those were both Friday releases. Bethesda back then seemingly was sticking with Friday. However, I even checked the recent ports that they've been doing to Switch and PS5. Forza Horizon 5 is coming to PS5 on April 29th. Once again, that's a Tuesday. Grounded came to PS5 and Switch last year on April 16th. Which was a Tuesday. Sea of Thieves came to PS5 on April 30th, another Tuesday. Hi-Fi Rush PS5 March 19th, another Tuesday. And then this one's a little weird. Pentiment came to Switch and PS5 on a Thursday. So once again, a Thursday, just like Doom the Dark Ages. However, the original release back in 2022 on Xbox, that was on a Tuesday, like all these other Xbox games. I believe the reason that Pentiment came to Switch and PS5 on a Thursday is because Pentiment was announced for other platforms in a Nintendo Direct, which aired on Wednesday. So they announced it and it came out the next day. Otherwise, I think it would have been a Tuesday, just like all of these other releases. That is a lot of information I just threw at you, but it just goes to show that Doom the Dark Ages releasing on a Thursday is weird. That is weird for Xbox. It's weird for Bethesda. There's not much precedent at all for them doing Thursday releases. Now, this is probably grasping at straws, trying to relate this to Switch 2. However, I do want to just, play devil's advocate here and say Doom the Dark Ages is going to have an early access period if you buy like the deluxe edition of the game for $100, where you will get it 3 days earlier on a Tuesday. So I don't know if they're going to start trying to line up their early accesses with Tuesdays, like when they normally release games, and Thursday being 3 days later, that's just a side effect of that, or if Thursday is actually related to some sort of Switch 2 launch or something like that. But it is definitely weird. Like, you look at all of these release dates, and they're almost all Tuesdays, random Monday in there. I mentioned with Indie, I think Indie was a Monday just because of the early access. So maybe, like I said, they're trying to try to line those up a little bit better so you don't have games releasing on Mondays, because that's really weird. This way, Tuesday to Thursday, 3-day early access, that works pretty well, I feel like. You're right in the middle of the week. But yeah, Doom the Dark Ages, definitely a weird release date for that game, just based on Xbox and Bethesda precedent. And I wanted to mention that because it's got a lot of people speculating that not only is it a Switch 2 launch title, but that would also mean the Switch 2 is releasing at the very least on May 15th, or maybe even earlier, but probably not. I'd be really surprised if it came out on like May 8th. Like, that'd be crazy. I mean, I would be very happy, but I think that's that's pushing it. That's pushing our luck a little bit much, trying to hope for an earlier release in May. But then on Mario Day, LEGO announced a new Mario Kart set that had people speculating. Once again, there is this new LEGO Super Mario Kart set coming out. Has a cool stand. Actually looks pretty nice in my opinion. One of their more mature sets, I guess, with a lot of pieces. It's very expensive. This is also releasing on May 15th. LEGO stuff almost always comes out on the 1st. Like consistently, LEGO sets come out on the 1st of the month. In fact, this May 15th release date is actually early access, and the set will be available at retail stores like Walmart, Target, all that, Amazon, in July, so July 1st. So they're releasing it a little bit early on May 15th, once again a Thursday. Weird date for a LEGO set. And as I'm sure you're all aware, we are expecting Mario Kart to be a launch title for the Switch 2, considering it is the game that they showed alongside the announcement of the console. Now, I've seen a lot of other people talk about this, seen a lot of people make videos about this specifically, and I feel like I'm less convinced of this than the Doom thing, actually. And here's why. If I were Nintendo and I were LEGO, if they're releasing a console on May 15th with the new Mario Kart, why would you also then release your $170 LEGO set the same day when people are going to be dropping $500+ on a new console and games? I feel like you would want to get this out, let's say May 1st even, just a little bit earlier so that people have time to, restock their wallets. It feels weird if Nintendo was really trying to coordinate all this, that they would release this LEGO set on the same day as the game. I do think that this Lego set is coming out around this time to go alongside the game, but literally releasing on the same day does feel a little weird. Now, looking back just last year, we do have a little bit of precedent with Nintendo and Lego sets kind of releasing a little earlier to hype up games, specifically with the great Deku Tree set. You could see this as a connection, maybe you wouldn't see it as one. I think it was intentional, but we had the great Deku Tree set release, I want to say in early September, maybe late August, and then a few weeks later we had Echoes of Wisdom. So they're no stranger to releasing themed sets around a new product, a new game to go alongside it. I just think it's a little too on the nose for this Mario Kart Lego set to be releasing the day that the Switch 2 would be. That feels a little weird to me, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe this in conjunction with the Doom Dark Ages stuff, like maybe that's enough to really put some weight on the idea that this console is releasing on May 15th. And funnily enough, just this morning as I was preparing this video, another May 15th thing was announced. Nintendo has announced that the Nintendo San Francisco store is going to be opening on May 15th. Now, I am of two minds of this. Similarly with the Mario Kart thing, to me it feels a little weird to open a store the day you would potentially be launching a console, but I do think it is extremely funny, if nothing else, that another May 15th thing has popped up, and it's one more thing for us to theorize about. I just don't know if you would open a new store and have a console launch on the same day. If we're talking like a May 22nd release, that's a little different. That maybe would be okay. Maybe even a May 8th release, so you're getting it out before the store. Because imagine those poor employees, opening day of the store, first Nintendo store in America, outside of New York, on the West Coast even. You're opening this new store. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of demand there just inherently because it's a new location. But then you also launch a new console the same day. That kind of seems like asking for trouble. Like that's way too much for one day. So while I really want to look at this and be like, wow, another May 15th thing, I do actually think this maybe hurts its chances a little bit, but it was just announced this morning, so I wanted to include it because there it is, that May 15th date again popping up. So that is a little weird. There is also something else I noticed, and I think all of these developers at this point in time would know when Nintendo is releasing the Switch 2, but we have a lot of smaller Japanese games releasing in the second half of May, after May 15th, and I just think it's a little peculiar. So we have the Capcom Fighting Collection 2, I believe that's on May 16th, Onimusha 2 is May 23rd, so two Capcom games. Capcom definitely knows when this thing is coming out. Fantasy Life, I think, is coming out on May 21st. We have that new Gundam remaster, that's a Vita game getting remastered for Switch. Bandai Namco, another publisher that would definitely know when the console's coming out. That's slated for, I think, the same day as Fantasy Life. We also have the new Rune Factory Guardians of Ozma releasing on May 30th. Now, is it a coincidence that all of these Japanese games are waiting until the second half of May to release? Maybe. I mean, these are Switch 1 games, but if I were these publishers, and these publishers would definitely know when the Switch 2 is coming out at this point, it kind of makes sense to release those games after the Switch 2 because there will be an inherent renewed interest in even Switch 1 games because of backwards compatibility. Why are none of these games releasing in late April or even early May? They're all releasing after May 15th. I just think it's a little weird. You know, I just think it's a little weird. I'm not sure if there's that much you can really look into it, but I did want to point it out that there's a lot of small Japanese stuff coming out in the second half of May, which would definitely benefit greatly from the launch and the hype around Switch 2. So yeah, I really hope all of this ends up being true and accurate, and we actually get this console on May 15th. I also think that just the lack of Switch 1 games right now is even weirder. It almost feels like, you know, like the tea kettle's boiling over. Nintendo knows that there is pent-up demand for something. They haven't released anything. They have Xenoblade X coming out, but aside from that, there's like just nothing in February, nothing announced for April, nothing dated right now for May or beyond. We have Pokemon later in the year. If Switch 2 is in like early May or May 15th, so right in the middle, it does kind of explain the lack of Switch 1 a little bit, in my opinion, of like, okay, well, we don't know it right now, but the Switch 2 is coming way sooner than people expect. And once again, talking about the Switch 1 kind of reveal to release strategy, that 2017 presentation for Switch 1, that was, I think, 6 weeks or so until the release of the console. So they announced the release date there, and then it was out in like 6 or 7 weeks. May 15th does line up with that, like almost perfectly. I think you're getting a similar time from the blowout event to the release date if it is releasing on May 15th. So for me personally, I'm not sure if I want to put money on May 15th yet, but I do think May is happening. I do think May 15th through the 29th, in that range. I think even June at this point is too late, unless they announce some Switch 1 games for May, or even April at least. I do think we're closer to this console than a lot of people realize, but maybe this video will age horribly, and, 3 weeks from now we get that Switch 2 Direct, and they have someone come out on stage and say, yeah, it's releasing in September. Oh god, please no. I do not want to wait until September for this thing, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think there is actually some validity to the Doom the Dark Ages theory, the Lego Mario Kart theory, and my little theory I added in there of all these small Japanese games coming out at the end of May? I'd like to get a conversation going down below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 speculation, theories, discussion, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. Check out my other Nintendo channel at It's Amiibo, where I cover collecting, but also a lot of other stuff. I did a Mario ranking video. Definitely check out that. And also check out these 2 videos that pop up here from the YouTube algorithm to see what they recommend you. Until next time, folks. Peace.